Hello and welcome to my channel, Boss Women. My name is Ray Makepeace and I'm the owner of Freedom Bridge Consulting. Today we're going to be talking about women in construction and building a sustainable future. Today's guest is Rebecca Heald and her business is The Heald Method and its mission to promote ESG leadership in construction. Hello, Rebecca.
Hello. First of all, thank you very much for having me. I'm
My
really
pleasure.
excited about this. And secondly, the Heald Method is my approach. So if just to bear that in mind, because if anybody goes
Did
looking
I
for the
get the
Heald Method,
wording wrong?
pardon?
Did I get the wording wrong? So the name of your business is The
So
Heald
my
Method.
business is just my business is just me, Rebecca Heald.
Got ya,
So
right.
if you go and Google, like, my website is www.rebecca-heald.co.uk, but the Heald Method is what I do. Yeah,
Thank
it's
you
my
for the
brand.
correction.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
How are you anyway? How are things
I'm
going?
good. I'm
Okay,
good.
good.
I'm really, really good. Well, I've had a bit of a weekend away, and I was spoken to you about this offline, but just been to Whitby. Thinking I was going to go and set some intentions and it was all going to be, very wholesome. And I spent the most of it crying, realizing that I have to push through another level to get to the next level in what I'm doing. So yeah, I'm good, but it's I feel like there's a lot going on, and it's another period of transition. But I've realized that's life. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah. Sounds like it was emotional, but you're healing at the same time.
Yeah, and I used to think, so my surname is Heald, not Held, like everybody seems to call me, is Heald. And I remember when I was thinking about my business and what I should call it, I was like, I'm going to call it Fully Healed. And everybody's like, yeah, Fully Healed is great. And then I was like, no, because I don't believe there is ever a period in life where you are fully healed. It's always, there's always work to do. There's always healing to be done. So that's why we
Very
ended up
true.
going this. Yeah. So I feel like the Heald Method, the Heald approach, which is my podcast, is much more fitting than Fully Healed.
Yeah, I love that. Definitely. Can you share a bit more about your journey in construction then and what led you to start your business?
Wow. Yeah. So I haven't been in construction as long as you, Ray. I know you've been in the industry, I think, of your career, right?
Yeah.
I personally, I started out as a secondary school teacher, and I ended up, so it's funny, isn't it? Because it's only as you look back and you start to realize a lot of things. And I remember being like in my mid to late 20s. I'd only been teaching. I hadn't been teaching very long at all. I was teaching in Manchester, on the outskirts. And I was on a maternity contract. So basically it was a fixed term. And so I was like, right, I'm in Manchester. I've been in Manchester for 10 years, but I'd had a series of events. Like I'd been mugged on the street. I'd had my house broken into twice. I remember one night I was just in the house on my own and some guy just broke in. So it was like, right, Manchester's been really tough. I mean, you've got to remember, I was, all of my experience in Manchester, I was either a student or I just started out in my career. So I was living in some, pretty dodgy areas. But it was like, right, I've got an opportunity now to kind of, do whatever I want, wherever I want. Not do whatever I want, because I still felt like I had to be in teaching at that point. But I applied for jobs all over. I say all over. I didn't, it was all kind of north. It was like North and Midlands, like Manchester, Lincoln, Nottingham. London never had even entered my head at that point in my life. And I ended up all classroom teaching jobs apart from one, which was back in Lincoln, and it was a promotion. And I always say, they say there's this statistic that 90% of women will not apply for a job unless they meet at least 90% of the criteria. But here I was, 27, whatever I was like, oh no, this job says I need like 5 years or 8 years. I can't remember it, but it was like lots of experience in teaching, leadership experience, etc. And all I'd done is like basic classroom teaching for not very long at all. But I thought, do you know what? I'm going to go for it because it's in inclusion, and I teach languages. There's a correlation there.
Yeah, and you can learn what you don't know. You have to start from somewhere.
Yeah. Well, I did, and I got the job. And then I spent nearly 20 years working for local authority in inclusion and diversity. Did my master's in bilingualism, and so funny though, to begin with, because it was like when I first went into it and started going out in Lincoln schools, and I was like, what on earth? I've just come from a school where it's 90 odd percent, I think it was less than 10% of the school population were white British, right?
Hmm.
So I'd seen a lot of diversity. Then I came back to Lincolnshire and it was like, wow. And I was having to go and deliver a lot of national strategy stuff at the time. So I was doing leadership stuff in schools, but I wasn't leading or managing teams initially. And I loved that. I loved that part of my life, my career. But then I ended up having my son when I was 29 and going back to work, and everything. Basically, I was restructured whilst I was on maternity leave.
Hmm.
Happened both times actually. And I ended up in literally they got rid of the service got rid of everybody that was, qualified and on my level apart from me.
Yeah.
And I ended up having to lead. Basically, I went back and it was like, right, here you go. You've got all these ladies. All ladies. They've been assimilated into a new role that some of them, don't want to do. Some of them do. Some of them haven't even had any school experience. You need to set the vision, the mission. You need to set up, literally I had to build a new team from scratch and also a service from scratch. And I'd just gone back after I was struggling with anorexia. There was obviously a lot of toxicity happening at home with my ex-husband. I
And your
was a new
hormones
mum.
after just having a baby as well.
Yeah. So I was literally thrown into leadership. And from that moment on, I don't think I ever really got back the passion for what I was doing. I didn't leave, I didn't leave that job until earlier last year. So I was doing that while I was building my business. So I carried on in that role for 12, 13 years, but little by little, it was destroying my soul,
Yeah, like
you
chipping away
know?
at you.
Yeah. And it's not because I didn't feel passionate about inclusion and diversity and people. Of course I did. And we did a lot of work with refugees. We did a lot of work with traveller children and families. We did a lot of work. I felt passionate about the cause. I just felt really frustrated working, within a local authority. There was no diversity on my team, which was
Yeah.
ironic. So I didn't just decide to leave last year. Basically, after I had my second son, I had a breakdown. And I was like, something's got to change. One, I know I need to leave my marriage, but two, I've got more to offer. From being a child, and I was talking about this at the weekend, from being a small child, I always felt like there was so much I had to offer, and I felt like there was so much potential in me. But obviously, traumatic childhood, abusive relationship, worked in a job that stifled me for so many years. I kind of lost all of that and just thought, this is
Hmm.
what it's meant to be. But then when I had my breakdown, I was like, no, it's not. You are here for more than this.
The
Stop
fire was
punishing
still
yourself.
burning inside you.
It was. So I retrained. I actually retrained in nutrition to set up a wellbeing business, and left my ex-husband, and then built the business. Then COVID started. So I built the business really looking at wellbeing and leadership within organisations, not exclusive to construction. In fact, it took a while for construction to even come onto the radar. But then I think as I was doing wellbeing stuff in businesses, as I got developed my confidence, because obviously I'd left my ex-husband, which meant I could do the work on me. I started to realise that there was a bigger picture, and that people need help to create more
Yeah.
inclusive environments if
Yeah.
any of the stuff I'm doing is going to have an impact.
Hmm.
So flipped it on its head, stopped going in and doing just the one-off workshops and stuff, and started doing more strategy, culture stuff, and then just fell into construction because, well, I say I fell into construction. That's not totally true, because
It wasn't
I
your
ended up
idea to go into construction. It was organic. It happened.
it was organic, yeah. But I also didn't fall in. I made a decision. A couple of years ago when I was looking at my business, and I was like, right, the majority of the work I'm doing is in construction. I was doing a little bit in manufacturing and the automotive industry as well, but I was like, I've got a choice to make here. I either throw myself into construction and it becomes, my industry,
Yeah.
or not. And I made the decision to. So it organically happened, but I made a choice.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so that's kind of the long and short
The
short
journey into
story.
construction, yeah. So
Yeah.
what gaps did you identify in the construction industry which helped you create the roadmap for the healed method?
So I think it all started originally with it's always been, when you look back, all of it has been to do with inclusion and diversity. But I think originally it was around women. It
Yeah,
was recognizing that there weren't enough women in the industry and there were lots of barriers for women coming into the industry. So when I set up my podcast, the healed approach. So there's the healed approach, which is my podcast, and the healed method is my methodology of how I work with businesses. And so I kind of started the podcast trying to elevate and raise a space for women to be heard and to be seen. And then I think as I've delved deeper into it, and it's funny when I look back and I just think, you start putting pieces of the puzzle together. And now I look back and just actually, I've realized that it's not just about women. Yeah. Yes, there are lots of things, lots of factors that are holding women back. Absolutely do believe in that. But I also feel like as an industry, we can't be isolating ourselves even more. We need to work together. Everybody, we don't just need more women in the industry. We need more diversity in the industry.
yeah,
And then obviously then it took me down the road of looking at neurodiversity as well. So, I'm ADHD, I have ADHD. My son is neurodivergent. And, and I do genuinely think that that's played a role in some of the struggles that I've had too. So it was just like, this is about, it's about something bigger. It's not just about women. It's not just about gender. It's about inclusion in general and diversity in general, which is always what I did anyway. When I was working for the local authority, it was never about women. It was about diversity. It was about, if anything, it was about ethnicity more than anything back then.
yeah,
So I started to see those gaps there, and then started to realize as I got into it as well, gaps in leadership. So not only is there a lot to be done around inclusion, diversity, there's a lot to be done around leadership, which of course is the reason that we're struggling with the inclusion and diversity. And sustainability. I've always talked about sustainability from a people perspective. So thinking about sustainability in terms of culture, in terms of building businesses that can be profitable and sustainably grow. But I ended up kind of getting pulled into, I guess, environmental sustainability, because I think when people see
right.
sustainability, they just think, oh, she's green and she wants to save the planet.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah,
I do genuinely. This has kind of evolved over the last year or so. No, a bit longer. I genuinely do feel, that we need to leave the world in a better place. I've got two
yeah,
young boys. But for me, so I do, and I have genned myself up quite a bit on, circular economy, carbon footprint. I'm now a carbon literacy certified practitioner, whatever. Done a lot around passive house and BREEAM and stuff like that. But for me, I only touch because there are enough people that specialize in those things.
yeah, definitely.
For me, it's about how we bring people together to drive all of that forward. Because as an industry, we complain, we're not being sustainable enough and we're having the biggest impact on the planet. But actually, when you look back to where we were 10, 15, 20 years ago, we have come on leaps and bounds.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many, we've even got carbon reducing concrete, there are so many initiatives, there's so much innovation, technology is moving all of the time,
Yeah,
but people are holding it back.
yeah, definitely. And it's really interesting because I thought sustainability was more about being eco-friendly, that kind of thing. So it's interesting to learn it covers so many other subjects.
Yeah.
Have you had any challenges? And if so, what have they been? Being a newcomer to the construction industry and a woman.
So where do you want me to start? So
The
just
first thing that comes to head.
do you know what? There are challenges just inherent within what I do because it's difficult. The construction industry is notorious for liking to do things the way it's always done things, right?
Yeah.
But as a woman and as a newcomer, I think a lot of the challenges have been personal ones for me to overcome. So, well, I say it's been a combination because I definitely get judged. It's like, oh, what does she know? When I'm going and I'm doing workshops for construction directors in tier one contractors, and and they know I'm the new kid on the block, and they're like, well, we've been in construction 30 years. What can she tell us? And that did used to bother me, but now I'm like, actually, I'm living and breathing what I believe in. If we're going to change things, if we're going to be more innovative, we need diversity. And me being here right now is diversity.
Yeah.
I've come from a different background. I see things differently. I spent my whole life in what I'm doing. Recruitment, retention, massive issue in the industry. And without inclusion, and sustainable leadership, we're not going to tackle all of that. So one of the challenges has been my own imposter
Your
syndrome.
own self-doubt, perhaps.
Yeah, because I know you so many women that are in the industry that are doing things that I'm doing, that are entrepreneurs, they've got a background in it. I know you're an electrician. I've got lots of people in the industry that I'm connected with that were engineers, quantity surveyors, joiners, so many amazing women, miners. And I know that there's kind of this thing of like, oh, she's only been in the industry 5 minutes. What does she know? And like I said, I feel like, the fact that I haven't been in it all that long does mean that I've got a lot to offer. And, I can speak to women. So I speak to female architects. They'll give me a very different I'll speak to, surveyors.
Yeah.
They will give me a very different view of the industry.
And what you're bringing as well, you're not there trying to speak to them about a mechanical design or anything like that. You're talking about what you know about and what they don't know a lot about. That's what you're there for, is to help them. Yeah. Interesting. Do you think sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say that does lead me a little bit onto like the other thing is that I also have found that, another barrier in the industry has been women. I've had a lot of, I've received a lot of, it's not always overt, but there's been a lot of bitchiness. There's been a lot of things, I know lots of things that have been said behind my back, and a lot of not enough belief in who I am and what I can do from other women in the industry. Don't get me wrong, there's been some amazing women in the industry that have really held some incredible space for me, but there have also been a lot of wolves in sheep clothing.
Which is shocking. It's shocking to hear, and I think as well to get that negativity from people is not good. Whereas I'm a believer as we need to empower everybody and uplift everyone and be the light in their day and give and take. But unfortunately, it's not always like that. And that was literally going to be my next question: was do you think there is enough support there in the industry for women by other women and men as well?
I mean, that's it's a difficult question.
Yeah.
Because I don't think there's a simple answer, because I do think there is this, I do think the support is there. I just don't always think it's obvious, or, because when I look now and I think I have felt like there's not been enough support, but then I think actually if you get in front of I think if you are being yourself and you are being authentically and unapologetically yourself, you will find the people that do support you. So I do think it's there. And I do think particularly men, I would say it's harder for a lot of women, because I still feel like there is this oh, there isn't enough space for another woman in the industry, or, she's going to tread on my toes, or what I mean? And I think as hard as that can be to hear, I think that there are a lot of women that do need to hear that and do need to acknowledge and accept that, because there is always, I've just started doing, on a personal note, I've just started doing some shadow work,
Yeah.
right? And it's really
Amazing.
interesting. And I think we kind of had this conversation a while ago, actually, because I said to you, I'm going to be really honest, I told you about somebody that annoys me, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, not in the industry, right? And I was like, what is it?
You
Is
couldn't
it just that she's
understand
annoying?
why.
Is it me? Is there something
Yeah.
about her that I need to heal in myself? And I think always being able to have those open and honest, conversations with yourself, as well as
Question
people that you
yourself,
trust.
question your motives and your emotions.
Because I do feel there's a lot of support there. I just don't think it's being mobilised is maybe the right way to put it. I feel like there are so many, secret supporters as well. I get a lot of men in the industry and in similar industries that will be like, really support what you're doing, keep doing what you're doing. I'm never gonna stand up though and shout about it. I'll just always be there as a silent supporter, which, is fine, but it's like, why can we not, why can we not get more men to speak up and support us on this? Because, I think I think there are men as well that do see how, as women, if we're not careful, we can make the situation worse. And I hold my hands up and I say that. I don't think any women are trying to make the situation worse. It's something that can happen if we're not careful.
Yeah, definitely. How do you deal with the criticism that you're getting then? Whether sounds like you're getting, it doesn't even sound like you're getting constructive criticism. It's more personal criticism. How do you deal with that?
I mean, I do get constructive criticism. I do, and
Which is
absolutely love
welcomed,
that.
isn't it? Because it's constructive.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and a lot of the constructive criticism I've got has actually been, well, most of it, I mean, there has been some great constructive criticism from women, but most of it tends to come from men, if I'm totally honest, who want to see, who see what I'm doing, and they do want me to achieve what I'm achieving, because they feel passionate about the industry and they know, yeah. But how do I deal with it? Now, that's interesting, because how I deal with it now is not how I've always dealt with it. Okay. It's hard, because initially when I used to get a lot of it, and I've had stuff, I mean, I've been called a whore, I've been called an attention seeker, I've been called all sorts, right? And initially it used to create a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress. And it made me doubt myself, and I would delete things. Now, and this kind of happened quite quickly, actually, because I would say only a year ago, I probably would have let, a negative comment, but now I've kind of like reframed it, and I'm like, you're getting criticism because you're evoking something in people, and that's a good thing.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
Take one thing I did do to begin with was, though, take everything to heart and be like, oh my God, I need to change this, I need to change that. Now, I'm not saying that there are still sometimes times when that happens, but I've got to have more belief in myself and remember that everybody's going to have an opinion. And that doesn't mean to say I have to start changing things or doing things differently just because somebody's commented on a post or doesn't agree with something I've said, So I think I've just, in terms of how I've dealt with things, I think I've done a work on myself.
Yeah.
And not saying I'm there yet, because who is, And like I said in the beginning, but I just think I've kind of tried to develop strength of character, I suppose, and have more belief in myself, because that's hard.
Yeah. So when you've got that self-love, that self-belief, those words will just ping off you, like, because you've got your love shield around you, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
I try not to, one other thing is that sometimes I try not to rise to the bait as well. Like
100%.
I used to always want to prove people wrong. There's been a few quotes just at the end of last year, I had one post that went viral. And there were a lot of attacks on me. And I just got to the point where I thought, I'm just going to let these comments ride. Don't care what they think, because I'm not wasting my energy on that.
100%. Don't give the negativity the energy.
No.
And
but
normally
I did,
what people say, but now you're learning not to, and that's great. And most of the time when people say things that aren't particularly nice, it's more of it's more of a reflection of how
Mm.
they're feeling and dealing with things internally. So good for you.
Absolutely. 9 times out of
Talking more,
10.
yeah, talking more about sustainability. So I would like to learn more about ESG leadership, because I didn't even know what that meant until I met you. So can you tell me a bit more about what ESG leadership is and why you think it's important, or why it is important for the future of construction?
So, ESG leadership. I mean, I imagine, or ESG just in general, people will have their own interpretations. But, for me, ESG, it's all about, environment, sustainability, governance, right, within a business, right? So all businesses should be looking at ESG. So they should be looking at, what they're putting in place to make sure. And there's the UN sustainability goals. It's all linked with ESG as well. So they look at the different aspects. So I guess that, the reason for me kind of talking about ESG is that I'm trying to get people to realize that it's not just about, it's not just about being more eco-friendly. It's about all of it. It's about
Mhm.
how we lead. It's about everything. So I think, sorry, did I say environmental sustainability and governance? I meant
You did,
it's
is it?
social. Yeah,
Okay, so it's
I just realised.
environmental, social
Yeah,
governance.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah. And I think I said sustainability, didn't I? But
you
yeah,
did.
no, it's
Because
environmental
I
social.
did talk about sustainability earlier, so
Yeah, no, it's fine. I just realised. I just suddenly think I think I said sustainability and not social. But anyway,
we're
um,
human.
yeah, we are, and I guess this is where I kind of sit in the middle a little bit because not in terms of like I'm not half alien or anything. I'm human, but I mean in terms of the ESG, because a lot of people go, oh, so it's what you do about social value, and I'm like that's a part of it, but that's again, it's part of a bigger picture. So yes, it's about
Yeah,
social value, but it's also about governance. It's about sustainability from an environmental perspective. So, and when I talk about ESG leadership, I guess what I'm trying to say is that without sustainable leadership, ESG is always going to be difficult,
yeah,
right? So for me, I guess what I'm trying to do is try to encourage organizations to stop thinking about it on the micro level and start thinking about it on the macro level. So yes, you can give lots of advice, and you can put things in place to meet certain standards, to get your, to get your BREEAM certification, to get your B Corp certification. But it all comes down to how well you're leading, right? It
yeah,
comes down to, and for me, I feel like within the industry, there's a massive gap, like I said to you before, in terms of leadership. I feel like, and this is not exclusive to construction. I think this happens in a lot of industries, is that a lot of people, and it happened to me in education, a lot of people will end up in leadership positions because technically they're really good at what they do, right?
yeah,
Well, that doesn't mean that they've been given the space. That doesn't mean that they're necessarily good leaders. And it
yeah,
also doesn't mean, or it, it might be that they could be great leaders. They've got potential to be great leaders, but we're not creating the space and investing enough
yeah,
in leadership skills to be able to do that. So
yeah.
everything I do, has at its core, creating better leadership, I guess,
Hmm.
because that for me, without that, everything I'm doing is always going to fall short.
Got ya. Um, Going back to, we haven't really touched on it that much, but you have produced, I don't even know if that's the right terminology, over 150 podcasts. Is that right?
I've recorded over 150,
Recorded
I
over
think.
150, and you got
Mhm.
some sort of like recognition for that as well. Is that right?
So I won. So I won the award for my social media and podcast contributions. Yes,
Which is amazing.
I won 2 awards. I won Best New Business last year as well.
Well done.
Yeah,
Congratulations. Love
thank
that.
you.
I'd love
And
that for me one day as well. So
put it out there then.
we're gonna.
I one day, right? I woke up and I was like, this again. It's like I can't. I built my business initially like on my social media presence, and I then woke up one day, year and a half ago. No, it was a year in October. Is when and I was like, I want to do a podcast because I feel like I feel like I can post as much as I want on LinkedIn and,
Yeah.
Instagram, and I can share videos, I can do my little videos, but it's not really, people are not going to connect as well with the energy if they're
Yeah.
not real life conversations.
Yeah.
So that's how I started. Then I obviously was like, right, this podcast, it's got to have a purpose. This isn't just about me this has got to be about other people. And just over time it's grown, and I've really loved it because I've got to know one of the things, I never thought about it as a lead generation. It's never really been that for me. Moving forward, people are trying to get me to think in those ways, and I'm like, I'm really not good at business. I'm just good at doing, but what it has done is it's helped me build an incredible network
Yeah.
of people that kind of get what it is I'm trying to achieve. But anyway, I started out and I've done all of my podcasts like this on on the same platform that we're using today. But this year I'm really wanting to take it further and do more in person. But now I feel like I've developed my confidence, know what my mission is with it, know what I want to achieve with it. I want to have a library. I want the healed approach to be a library of CPD modules for people
Love
in the
that
industry.
idea.
Yeah. So next year I'm wanting to get, some amazing people on, and I've already got some amazing people lined up, and do it in person. I've got a studio in London. First date recording is in February. It's all early days because I'm going to.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's going to need some sponsorship at some point for me to keep it going, but
Shout out to all the sponsors.
yeah, shout out, trust me, if I've got a vision, I'll make it happen. Because obviously the other thing is that doing it like this, it's cost me hardly, it costs a lot in time, and now I've started to get someone to help me with the editing, but
Got ya.
otherwise, but now when you're looking at like hiring a studio and getting people to do all of that, the money starts racking up, and I'm still just out there on my own doing this. So yeah, hopefully I will get some sponsorship to take it to the next
No
level.
hype. It will happen. It's
Yes,
gonna happen.
yes, it will.
And or can you tell us a little bit more about what your podcasts are about and what your mission is with your podcasts?
So like I said to you, so it's kind of, twofold in a way. I'm wanting to raise awareness around what it is that I'm doing, not just about what I'm doing, but what I'm feeling passionate about. So I want to raise awareness of sustainability and how it's not just about, the green stuff. It's about the bigger picture as well.
Yeah.
But obviously my podcast, I remember when I was speaking to somebody about my vision for it, and they were like, well, that's quite broad if you're going to be looking at all aspects of sustainability. And I'm like, yeah, but I feel that you have to, right? Because, it's really important. So I'm hoping to have experts in people, culture, experts in passive house. I've already had an expert in passive house on, I'm hoping to have, and there's two things. So one, like I said to you, I want it to be a useful tool for the industry. I want it to be something that people can listen to and a penny drops and they start to be able to think differently. I want people to think differently. I feel like that's my mission.
Yeah.
But also as well, I want to bring people that think differently together, because like I said to you before, there's so much support in the industry. There are so many great leaders in the industry, but they're all out there doing stuff in silos. And I just feel like, and there are organizations, there are, networks, but they're not, for me, we need more collaboration. We need more collaboration in the industry, better communication.
Yeah.
And, I'm hoping that at some point, all the people that have been on my podcast, I might, as I get going with it, I want to bring them together and have like an expert panel of sustainability, people that are passionate about sustainability. So it's got I've got a much bigger purpose with it than what people may seem when they just, start listening to the healed approach.
Yeah, that's a great idea. A little thing just popped in my head as well. I thought about if you set yourself a goal, like, right, I've done X amount of podcasts, I'm now going to hold a little event and invite all the people who I've interviewed where they can meet each other. We can all have a little chat together. Is that basically what you're saying, where you have like a panel and it's all your...
I don't
In
know
my head, I was
exactly
like,
what it.
have a celebration, right? Pop a bottle of champagne and say, I've reached X amount followers or I've reached X amount podcasts.
Yeah, and you're right. And I probably do need, I mean, I guess for me, like I've set the intention for 2025 to get the healed approach to the next level. And then on the back of that, have this like network or something of sustainability, you know, and passionistas, I call them. I've just made that word up, but I quite like it. I used
Love
it the other
that.
day, passionistas.
You need to
Um,
trademark that now.
passionistas. Have I made? Yeah, I'm going to write it down now. Trademark
I mean, it's new to
passionistas.
me.
So, well, no, it's new to me. I think I was talking about something. I was trying to get something. I was trying to articulate something the other day, and I couldn't find the word. I was like, "Yeah, it's a passionista." And I'm like, right, okay. So, and it's interesting because I actually went. So I've been thinking about this for a while, and I've been inspired by other people. I've got to say, I've been inspired. So I'm going on a podcast. I'm going to be a guest again on another podcast in a couple of weeks. I think it's 2 weeks today. Thriving Construction with Darren Evans. And I, I think he sparked this thing inside of me thinking, right, he's doing this in person. I've got to go to London and record. And actually, that's a brilliant idea. And then he invited me to a network thing that he'd done with some of the guests that he'd had on it. So yeah, that's been inspired. But I guess, these were things already. I guess it's funny, isn't it? Because I think when you start putting things out in the universe, the right things start to come along. So I feel like seeing this happening in other, seeing other people do great things is really inspiring and motivating as well. That's why
Definitely.
I'm so honest and authentic on the posts that I share on my social media, because I know not all of it's going to drive work, but I do think if I can just share my story and it makes one person think they can do it too, that's my job done.
Yeah, definitely. Love that. So I didn't really, again, going back to sustainability, how can people integrate that without it just being about ticking boxes?
Well, like I, kind of like skirted around this a little bit, but it's about people and culture. It's about leadership, and I feel like we are going to achieve. It's a little bit like, this has just come into my head, right? But obviously, I've got a bit of a invested interest in well-being, nutrition, had an eating disorder, and I always used to say, because for me, my eating disorder was triggered because there was lots of other reasons for it. Anybody who knows anything about eating disorders will know there are lots of, factors. I can't think of the word, not mitigating factors. There's a lot of, it's never just about one thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
It's quite complex, right? But for me, I was 19, I'd put on weight. Somebody had commented on me putting on weight. And so I went on a diet. And
Brilliant.
going on a
Yeah.
diet then triggered my anorexia. So where I'm going with this is that we live in a world and a society where we're always told, you got to go on a diet. You got to count your calories. You got to,
Weigh
go to
this
the gym.
much, have
Yeah.
this hair, these teeth, look this way. Okay, yeah.
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 So we focus a lot on the external, right?
Mm,
And without really thinking, right, why have I gained weight? I'm not one. I think we all have to take responsibility for our health. We've got to take responsibility, but I don't think,
yeah.
I think if anything, worrying too much about, what it says on the scales, worrying too much about not going to the gym, not get to the gym every day, it has an impact on your mental health that is not worth it.
Yeah.
And we're just constantly trying to fix something externally rather than digging in deeper and seeing what's really going on and doing the work there. Now, the reason I'm going down this route is that I feel like that's kind of also what's happening with construction and sustainability and other things as well. But I feel like there's so much smoke and mirrors. There's so much like we need to make sure that we get, we achieve this standard, we achieve this metric, we get, we're driving sustainability because we're going to meet, we're going to be net zero by 2030, or we're going to have 50% women in, within our organisation.
The
They're
external
all
factors, like you're
things.
saying, that's all the things where actually we'd need to do the work internally within all of us.
And within our businesses,
Yeah.
so we need to be looking at our leadership teams, how we're developing those, how we're developing our leaders, how we're creating space for them to do that work. And also then about how we're creating space within our organisations, with our governance, with our policies. This is why I look a lot at recruitment and inclusive recruitment.
Yeah.
And because I think then all of those things that you're trying to achieve are going to happen naturally. We're going to have a better impact on the environment because we're doing it from a place of really wanting to and believing in it. And it's the same with diet. You take off the pressure and start just putting solid structures in place, and that take responsibility. You work on your mental health, your weight will find where it's supposed to go. And that does not necessarily mean you're going to look the way that you think you're going to look, right? We need to let go of that.
Yeah.
But what you are
You're
going
going
to
to
do is
feel better. That's the most important thing, right?
And it's the same in businesses. I feel like businesses are constantly comparing themselves. We've got this blueprint, we've got that blueprint. That's why I did call the healed method a blueprint to begin with, but I tried to come away from that because it's not a blueprint. I don't have all of the answers. I work with businesses to figure that out.
Yeah, you work with the people. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And there are, of course, I always used to say as well, you always need some, you need guidelines, you need some kind of, but within all of that, it's a bit like with intuitive eating. I always used to say, you know that you need to eat more vegetables, drink more water, eat less processed food, but you need to learn about yourself and what works for you and your triggers and integrate that. So it's all about integration.
Your connection, your mental connection with food. So what your business is basically doing is supporting people that don't have that knowledge, that internal connection with other people, or the skill set to be leaders. They might have the passion, but they might not have had the encouragement or the support. And that's what you can do as well. Yeah.
It's unlocking potential. Because we actually, a lot of leaders, not all leaders, because not everybody's born to be a leader. Not everybody should be a leader. A little bit like not everybody should be a parent. I was talking about this morning, actually. I know this sounds awful, but
it's funny. It is what it is at the end of the day. When no one person is the same.
Not everybody. I'm not going to say everybody, because not everybody can have children, and I need to remember that. But most people, majority of people, can be parents, but the majority of people shouldn't be parents. And it's the same with leadership. Sorry to say that. It's the same with leadership. I was talking today about a little boy that I know, and sorry, this is getting a bit personal, but we were talking about, how he's really struggling because of all the trauma that he's experienced. And, and I can see this because, his mum and his dad are totally messed up. And so now all that's happening is all of that trauma is now, being passed down. So it's generational trauma.
That's what he's experiencing and seeing. Yeah.
Yeah. And, where am I going with this? I guess what I'm trying to say is, we all, I guess, to put the right energy out there. I know as well, like I said to you, that I had a difficult weekend this weekend. Difficult. It was fun. It was great, but it was difficult as well because it made me bring some stuff to the surface. But I know that unless I did bring that stuff to the surface, I wouldn't be creating space for all the other amazing things that can happen, and I couldn't unlock potential. I told you before we started recording this about that amazing opportunity that's landed on my lap this morning. And I'm honestly thinking that wouldn't have happened had I not released some of the stuff I needed to release at the weekend.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I totally agree with you.
And I guess what my point there, was that a lot of people, a lot of leaders, they've got it there. They know because it's instinct within them, but they do need that support and that encouragement and it's the same with parenting. You're never done with it. And you have to follow your gut, but you need some help and support with that.
It's difficult to say, I'm struggling, I need help. We're not encouraged to do that, no matter what it is, whether you're a parent or you're struggling in a relationship or it's your own business or you're working for someone else. So, yeah, the word is just ask. If you need that help, the support's there, and there's plenty of people that are willing to help, like Rebecca.
Yes, exactly.
So we've talked a bit about your business, we've talked about your podcasts, talking more about then new startups and running your own business. Is there any advice you would give other women starting out, whether that's in construction or just running their own business?
I I we could spend another hour talking about this, but I
If you had to pinpoint it.
yeah, yeah. Do you know what? I think the one main message I would share is to, encourage. This might mean doing some work on yourself. I don't know. I don't want to assume that everybody, isn't already doing that, or anybody isn't already doing that. But I think find it within you to be as authentic as you can be, and really question yourself as much as you can about that.
Yeah.
Because I think the reason I say this is that when you're going to attract the right people that are going to
Hmm.
carry, that are going to be there on your journey. You cannot do this on your own. That's another thing that I've learned as well, is that I feel like there is, like I say, I've always felt, and I'm not saying this, I hate saying this because it almost makes me sound big headed, but I don't want it's not. I just feel like I've got a lot to offer, and I feel like I've got a lot of energy and a lot of potential and a lot of passion that is never going to achieve what it needs to achieve if I don't meet the right people on my journey.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think when you're authentic and you are yourself, you will meet people on your journey. You will have to let some people go, but you will meet the right people that will be the right support for you and that will
Yeah,
create the space
definitely.
for you. And that for me is mega, mega. I always thought I could do it all on my own. I thought I was, little Miss, I don't know, superwoman.
Hmm.
And I've learned, you know, through some very difficult experiences. But that's the other thing as well. Don't be afraid of failing. Don't be afraid. But this isn't women specific. That's everybody. All of
Yeah.
us are so afraid of getting things wrong. But for me, I actually quite like it when I get something wrong, as much as it like knocks my confidence and, and I'm a bit like, I actually quite like it as well because it means that I'm going to grow.
Yeah. You can learn from it. And you know what, Rebecca? I don't think it's big headed knowing your passions, knowing your skills, and having self worth. That's
Yeah.
really important. And I totally agree with you about being yourself and saying what you think rather than not saying something because it might hurt someone's feelings or saying this because you want to please them. You
Mm.
need to give less. How can I say this? I don't know another word apart from a swear word right now. You just need to care less about what other people think. And then
Yeah.
that's how you're being authentic, and that's how the right people will gravitate towards you. I'm 100% on the same journey as you. So yeah, I
Yeah.
get that
Well, I
totally.
know. And you know, that's the other thing. Get yourself out there as well. Get yourself out there. That's how we met. You
Yeah,
know, we met at an event in Birmingham, didn't we?
yeah,
And
it was
yeah,
amazing. I wanted to say as well, like I was absolutely blown away by you. I was just like, wow, look at this stunning woman. You came across to me, you had sort of this confidence, but you were like welcoming as well. You were so friendly, which I found quite rare in the construction industry. I can only compare it to the construction industry because that's all I've ever worked in. And you said a few things to me, and I said, oh, I don't know about having more women in the construction industry because I said it's not really a nice place to work. And you were like, no, that's exactly why we need women in the industry. And I was like, oh, okay. And started thinking more about it. And I was like, yeah, she's right. And then you told me about how you started your own business on your own, and you're the person who inspired me to start up on my own. So thank you so much for that. I'll forever be grateful for that.
no, no, thank you. I mean, since we've met, you know that you've been in, and this is one of the reasons why I kind of said what I did as well. Is that when you are you will fall upon the people that are meant to be part of your journey, and
100%.
and I think as much as I may have helped you, I think it's more than been reciprocated. You've helped me massively as well.
Oh,
And we will continue to do so.
definitely, definitely. So going away from women a little bit then, how do you think men in this industry can support women um in leadership roles, or just getting more women into construction? How do you think the men can do that?
I think there were already, there were already a lot of men doing this. There are. But I think that men need to speak up a little bit more, and I do see a lot of men being, like I say, like quietly doing stuff in the background, quietly supporting women, investing in women, creating opportunities, and I've heard it so many times. A lot of women in the industry have been like, the reason that I've ended up doing what I'm doing or getting where I am is because I've had a man who's really supported me and believed in me, and that's great. And I think that we need to see more of that happening.
Yeah.
But we also need to be seeing more explicit stuff happening. We need more men talking about the things. Like, I know I was talking to somebody recently, and she was telling me about how she'd experienced some really misogynistic bullying, sexism recently. And she said, I did stand up to it. She goes, but in some ways I made it worse. And she said, this is why we need men. We need men because men will listen more to men, But I feel like, I think there is so much going on. I think that there is this, especially in construction, I still feel like there is this, this kind of attitude that you've got to be, macho, super masculine. And, if you kind of show a bit of weakness by supporting women, it's going to kind of go against you, or you call somebody out on. I've had people that have, spoken to me, been on video calls. We've even done podcasts. I've done podcasts with some people who afterwards have said, I don't want to say this on screen, but although there's a guy, and I had I recently had a guest on. I don't want to say too much because I've not published it yet. But watch out for it. And he was actually really good, and I can't wait to get that episode out, because he was basically saying about why it is, that, he said it as it was. He was like, these are the barriers women are facing, and he said it on camera, and that was great.
Yes.
But that's so rare. It is so rare. And yes, I do know some great allies. I know, I do know of some, some people that I work with, some male colleagues who, if in a situation a man is inappropriate, he will call the man out on it. But then, why can you not talk about that on your social media as well? Why can you not go to events and talk about that? We need more men involved we've got women in construction groups, right? But we need men involved in them, because men are part of the solution.
100%. Otherwise, it looks like we're attacking men and saying men are doing this. It's not that at all. We're trying to work as a team together, and that's what you're saying earlier about being authentic. Like, don't be scared to speak up and say your mind. If something in you says this isn't right, say it's not right. If someone's being picked on, say, hang on, you're being out of order. Stick up for that person.
Yeah. And and I just don't think, but I think that there's a lot of work to be done in terms of mentoring and educating young boys as well, so that they can. I think that we need to. I'm super passionate about doing work with universities, colleges, schools, apprenticeships, because I feel like we've got to have some of these open and honest conversations with young men and women as they're coming into the industry and the workplace as a whole. I just think, as well as men, we need to stop thinking that stop making women just a number as well.
Don't just take on women because we need more women. Take them on because you can see skills in them that will enhance your business. You're not saying, right, we need loads of women in construction. No, take on people because of their value, not because that they're man or they're woman. We think they're gonna, be emotional or not emotional.
I did a talk about this at the MMC Expo over in Coventry. I did a talk on like meritocracy and stuff like that. And
what was that word?
Meritocracy.
Okay, what does that mean?
So meritocracy, I did a video about this. I did a podcast. I did a solo podcast about this. I'll send you it afterwards. But
we'll put the link at the bottom as well.
Yeah, it was basically I'm talking about how it's a myth. We talk about, so meritocracy is the right person for the job, right?
Yes.
Um,
Right.
and we talk about it. So many businesses are like, yeah, we do, we believe in meritocracy. It's always the right person for the job. And I'm like, that happens so rarely. It
Mm-hmm.
happens so rarely. Because especially in construction where there's so much nepotism as well, because of
Right.
our
This is
unconscious
another new word
bias.
for me.
Nepotism. So nepotism is basically I was going to say incest, but no, it's like people get the job because they're family or their friends. So
Right.
on
Okay.
the one hand, you've got meritocracy, which is where it's people are getting the job based on their merits and because they're the right person for the job.
Got ya.
Nepotism is oh, he's got it because he's the director's son, or he's got it because he knows somebody. Yeah. So, and it's basically that happens, and it's always going to happen to a certain extent, right? We're human beings, and if we can create an opportunity for somebody that we know, but I think we need to have more honest conversations about it so we can stop it from happening and having a detrimental effect to people and business.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And this is a lot why I do the work I do around recruitment as well, because a lot of people, like I say, will think they're being fair, will think they're being unbiased, but actually it's not as straightforward as that. And
No.
you have to look at how even the language that you use in your job adverts, words like passionate, not I'm not being funny, not everybody who's really good at their job has to be passionate about their job. So it's just thinking about the barriers that we put up there without realizing it.
Yeah, definitely. So, key takeaways then from today. Correct me if I'm wrong, and you can add to it as well. Be authentic, be yourself. Sustainability isn't just about being eco-friendly. It's about
Right?
culture within businesses and leadership.
Yeah.
Other key points. We need to help each other, men and women. We need to support each other.
Yeah.
What other key points can we take away from today?
I guess the only thing I think they're great. I think the only thing I'd kind of add to the being authentic is that in order to be authentic, you've got to be real and honest and true to yourself. Sometimes we think
Definitely.
we're being authentic, but unless we are being authentic with ourselves, it's really hard to then be authentic around other people. And that sometimes means doing some work. And I do genuinely, most people out there have experienced some kind of trauma, especially if you're a woman. I mean, I hate to say especially as you're a woman, because I know that men also face challenges, and of course they do, but they've got to realise that, that there are additional challenges when you are a woman. Yeah, without going, but we'll talk about that on another podcast. I'm just going to plug my
Definitely.
battery in so it doesn't die.
For
But
sure.
yeah, I think they're the main takeaways. I think you've summed it up quite nicely.
Good. And if people want to contact you, they can add you on LinkedIn, you're on Instagram, you've got your own website. Do you want to say what those are? And then I'll link them in as well at the bottom when we publish this.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. My handle on all of that is at Rebecca Heald. At Rebecca Heald Leadership. I might be, yeah, that's what it is at the minute. I might change it because I've been thinking about using the Heald method, but at the minute, it's my handle is at Rebecca Heald Leadership, and then on LinkedIn you can just find me if you just search Rebecca Heald. I'm on LinkedIn. My
Yeah.
website is www.rebecca-heald.co.uk,
Yeah.
and you can, if anybody wants to contact me, they can obviously get me on any of my social media platforms. LinkedIn's the one I'm most active on. Or
Yeah.
they can email me, rebecca@rebecca-heald.co.uk.
Amazing. And people can follow your podcast as well, which I'll add a link to so they can listen to you more and see your library develop.
Yes. Thank you. Forgot about that one.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time today. It's appreciated as always. And we'll do another one soon.
Thank you. Thanks so much. I've really enjoyed it.
Okay. Thanks then, Rebecca. Bye.